Hello, good afternoon. Can you guys hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay, let's start. Tell me what is that you want me to discuss or what is that you want to know? Saurabh, people wanted a revision class, so there's something sort of in mind. What is that they would like to discuss
So
again? Yeah.
we want similar questions which will be asked in internals.
What do you mean? Similar question asked in internals. You want me to give question paper ahead?
No, sir, just a
Then
type.
see on the textbook there are questions at the end. If you look at the questions at the end, question would be of that type.
Okay, sir.
Okay. So if you look at the textbook, there are questions at the end. So more or less they're going to be on that pattern. Like
Sir,
mostly theory questions. Yeah, go ahead.
sir, the textbook which you have shared at the beginning of the semester is
Yes.
does the textbook contain all 5 modules?
Uh, Practically yes, but as far as the syllabus VTU is concerned, for module 4 they have given a different textbook,
Sir, if you have
and I
that, can you
given
share?
the I given to your class rep the chapter 10, which is only chapter 10 from the second textbook is for module 4, and I given to
Okay,
class rep already. Get
okay,
it
sir.
from them.
Okay, sir.
I mean, like some of the questions would be, describe RSA algorithm or describe Diffie-Hellman key exchange or describe your SHA algorithm, Figure's algorithm, or describe the step of DS data encryption standard. Those are questions you'll basically get in VTU. So out of your 30 marks, your 18 marks would be more or less theory like that. 12 marks would be numericals. Given this, let's say, given this keys, can you find the encryption and decryption? Or given these keys, can you drive the uh, what is called the shared key exchange using differential key exchange? Or given the volume size, what the bit rate would be, or given the sampling rate for voice over IP? Let's say we sample at the rate of 1024 samples per second, and we're sampling 8000 per second. So what would be your the bandwidth requirement would be? Did you get the question? Let me open the textbook and see if I can share that. Give me a minute. Can you guys see my screen?
Yes, sir.
Let us look at question number R3. Now can you tell me what the answer would be? Who would like to attempt question number R3? Is the question clear? Saurabh, is question clear? Answer question number R3. To me, this is a 1 minute question, not even 5 minute question. Okay, Sujan, how many bits
Yes.
you need to represent 1024 levels? How many bits you need to represent 1024 values? 1024 level means 1024 possible values. So how many bits you need?
Sir, 2 power 10.
Two power number of
10.
bits. Number of bits are not 2
10,
power
10.
10 bits. Okay. So each sample you need 10 bits. And how many sample you are taking? 16,000. So what should be my bit rate would be?
Sir, 160 kbps.
Yeah, kilobits, 160 kilobits per second. That's the answer. That's all is the question. It's a 1 minute question. It's a numerical. And the question number R2 is very typical of what you get in VTU. Do you know what these are? What are the two type of redundancies? Does anyone recollect? Noor? Sujay?
Sir,
Yeah, what are the two type of redundancies in video? I mean, you guys can be unmute. It's only voluntary. We're not doing a forcible class. So only interested people are coming in, so you can be all unmute. As long as you don't make a noise, we should be fine.
Spatial and temporal redundancy.
Spatial and temporal, absolutely right. Can you give them more details what these are? What is spatial and what is temporal?
Spatial has mostly white spaces.
No, there's not a white space. That is not true.
It has high degree of redundancy.
Yes. Number of bits are repeated with same value. So within the same frame, there is a lot of redundancy. That is spatial. And what is temporal?
It reflects repetition
Where?
in the image.
No. So you have to be clear. I mean, you can be unmute. You don't have to. Yeah. Yeah. Go ahead.
Sir, like if two frames have similar
Between
looking
two
and
frames,
yeah.
data is repeated. That's called temporal mean time related. So between two successive frames of the same data, you don't have to transmit. You can only say these bits are repeated. So bits number 1 to bits number 10,000 or pixel number 1 to pixel number 10,000 are repeated. same value. So don't retransmit. That is temporal. So question R2 is typical of a V2 type question. When it's a theory question, that's what I mean by theory question. Question number R4 is again a theory question. Who would like to answer? Rakshit? What are the three categories? Priyanka? Aruna? Somebody should answer. One is called stored streaming. First is stored streaming video. Second
Conversational.
is conversational video. And third is live streaming. And then describe what this each means. Like stored streaming, you can tolerate initial delay. Even 5 seconds, 10 seconds is fine. Conversational, you do not want any delay at all because two sides conversation. Live streaming, since it's one way only, 1 second delay could be a 2 second could be acceptable, but not 10 seconds. You miss out that part. So jitter cannot be tolerated. Now stored streaming video further into three categories or three different streaming types. Can you explain what are the three different streaming types for stored video?
Sir, streaming continuous play out.
No. Those are technical characteristics. We are saying three different categories. One is UDP streaming. And what are the other two?
HTTP streaming.
HTTP streaming and third one. Third one is the improvement of HTTP streaming.
Adaptive HTTP streaming.
Yeah, dynamic adaptive streaming or HTTP called DAS. So what is the difference? What is the limitations of UDP, shortcomings? Like there is no flow control in UDP. Sender keeps sending at the fixed rate and data may get lost. And user would have a really bad experience. Second in UDP is you need to drill a hole in firewall. There's no user interactivity. Pause, replay something, nothing of that sort. Because there's no control to the server. And that is the question I'm saying R6. So these are all questions what you get in theory. This is what you'll get it basically in your YouTube question as well. Question number R7. What is the difference between TCP receive buffer and client application buffer? See, client application would read from the client buffer. And you basically play the video from the client buffer. If client buffer becomes empty, then there will be what is called freeze. TCP receive buffer is at the protocol level, which sent at the protocol level and server sends it. If client buffer is full, sooner or later TCP receive buffer will also become full. If client is reading slowly, client buffer may become full, and then receive buffer may become full, and then server would be choked. Look at the diagram we discussed there. So TCP receive buffer gets data from the server side on the protocol. So you have to make sure that you do initial buffer allocation, and you normally TCP application buffer needs so that you can do initial delay, fill up the data so that when buffer gets filled up, reduced, and the user doesn't see a freeze. User sees a smooth play. That's the way it works. Let's look at voice over IP or something. Okay, what is the difference between end-to-end delay and packet jitter? Bhuvna?
Sir,
Yeah, what is end-to-end delay and what is packet jitter? Dhanalakshmi? Dhruv?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, what is end-to-end delay and packet jitter? We have
Sir,
discussed in the class. Yeah, go ahead.
sir, the delay in the transportation of the packet from the source to destination is the end-to-end delay, and jitter will be the variable in the delay.
No, not time taken by the packet when source sends and is received.
Yes.
So time difference between the two time points when source sends it and receiver receives it, the time difference is the delay. Okay, don't say delay is that. I know what you mean, but you have to choose the right words.
Yes. And the
What is jitter?
variety in the delay or variable in the delay is the jitter, sir.
Not variety, variation.
Variation. Sorry, sir.
You have to be precise with the words. Variety has completely different meaning. We're not saying delay type 1, delay type 2, delay type 3. Okay? So use the right word. So some packet take 5 seconds, other take 7 seconds, other one take 3 seconds, so too much variation. And more the variation, that is more the jitter. More the jitter, you need to wait longer. Because you need to have a buffer, application buffer, make sure it takes care of jitter. Otherwise, user will have a freeze. Okay?
Yes, sir.
Question number R13. They are all theory questions. Why is a packet received after the scheduled playout time is considered lost? Let's say frame X comes after scheduled time, and after that we already played frame X plus 1. If we already played frame X plus 1, can we play frame X now? When you're playing a video, you cannot reverse the frame and the whole thing will go for a toss. So if you already played a frame x plus 1 at scheduled time, you cannot play frame x anymore because it has lost its meaning. So hence, if you get a plate after the scheduled playout time, when it should be played, it doesn't come in, then you already played the next frame, the previous frame comes late, it has no meaning, they're as good as lost because we can't do anything with them. In voice over IP, what are the forward error correction schemes? We discussed two error correction schemes. Does anyone remember or recollect? Okay, let me see if I can show you. This is simple. You create n packets, create an XOR of all the n packets, and send it. If any one packet is lost, you can recover the packet. What is the drawback of this scheme? Let's say we are doing a 5 packet and we lose 2 packets. Would we have quality issues? Look guys, what would happen? So if we are doing simple scheme, we can afford to lose only 1 out of n plus 1 packet. Because if we lose more than 1, we cannot reconstruct. So as long as we are sure that 1 out of every n packets is lost, and since we can construct the lost packet, this simple FEC would work. Improved FEC scheme is interleaving. You break a segment into multiple parts and interleave the segment. And now if any segment is lost, you basically try to cover that, recovery of packet loss. Other interleaving, other scheme is, sorry, this is the wrong diagram for FEC. Let me tell you what is the FEC I'm talking about. It's not interleaving. Yeah, this one. For a given packet, we do the raw encoding and we do also send lower rate encoding of previous packet with the next packet. So packet number 3 would have the original encoding plus the compressed or the low quality encoding of packet number 2. Packet number 4 would have full encoding of packet 4 plus low encoding of packet 3. So if any packet is lost, let's say this packet 3 is lost. Now we know that packet number 4 has low quality encoding of 3. So the moment we receive packet number 4, we'll play the low quality of 3 encoding and full quality of packet 4. So even if you lose alternate packet, we'll play one packet with full encoding, one with low encoding, one with full encoding, or another one with low encoding. And that's how the FEC would work. So this is called piggybacking lower quality stream. So previously it was doing a simple XOR. When asked to compare between two schemes of FEC, which one would you prefer? You would prefer the second one if there are more packet loss, But if you are guaranteed that only 1 out of n would be lost, you'll prefer first one. Because then if you're sure that only one is lost, you get much better quality in this case. Because you are not playing any low quality encoding. But only drawback is you can afford to lose only 1 out of n packets. But if you lose 2 packets, you have very poor quality. Whereas in second case, even if you lose every alternate packet, you can still play. It is better than previous case because we have one low quality, one high quality. In that sense, second scheme will work much better. So forward error correction means you always add extra information to the data so that you can recover. And that is what the forward error correction is. Like you are adding extra information for packet number 2, you are adding extra bit of 1. If you look at simple FEC, again we are adding here. How are we adding? After n packets, we are adding n plus 1 of packet. And because we are adding extra information, and these are called forward error correction scheme. First scheme, we always increase the bandwidth by 1 by n. For n packets, we always send extra information by 1 at the 1 by n rate. We're sending 1 extra packet. Whereas in the second scheme, each packet we are doing low quality encoding. So depending on the quality of the channel, you have to make a decision. Do we go simple FEC or do we go with the piggyback FEC mechanism? But the cost we pay is we are always adding extra information. We are increasing the bandwidth. So you don't want to increase the bandwidth, you want to work with, then we do other schemes, which is what we call is interleaving scheme. So what we do is, see, rather than losing 1 packet, we are doing to lose, if packet gets lost, we're losing part of 1 packet. So let's say packet 1 has divided into 4 segments, packet 2 into 4 segments, and we interleave. So for each packet, 1 segment of 1, 1 segment of 2, 1 segment of 3, and 1 segment of 4. This is what we interleave. And then if any segment is lost, at least we have only respective that much. So we're losing only a small part of each big packet. So user will not see a difference. So out of, let's say, 1 second and each packet is 250 milliseconds, and we're doing 50 milliseconds each. So we are losing 50 milliseconds in each 250 milliseconds versus losing whole 250 milliseconds in 1 second. Same loss, but in second case, the loss is clearly visible. But in the first case, loss is kind of hidden. And that is what this interleaving scheme is. And these are all basic theory questions. Next is you can say look at error concealment. One is if you lose a packet, play the previous packet. Or other cases, take the average of 2 packets, interpolate and play the average of 2 packets. That way you conceal. This was for your basically multimedia. Similarly, you can look at SIP protocol. We have a SIP initiation, SIP register messages. So basically look at the messages. So these are all theory questions. Now you can look at security chapter to understand from the book, because the textbook 2, which has been chapter 10, it is very, very high level superficial. So you can read up, understand, and that should be fine. Talk to your class rep to get the book chapter. Any other question? Tell me, guys. Lot of we have problem with the assignment. As anybody needs still clarity? How many of you uploaded the assignment? Let me ask you. There are going to be questions based on those. Not with high numbers, but lower numbers.
Excuse me, sir.
Go ahead, Dikshita.
Sir, in the first one, CSE, I divided it into 3 parts, C, S, and E. But today in a mail, you had replied as you have to divide it into 2 parts, CS and E.
No,
Sir, is it fine to
okay.
divide it into 3 parts?
See, what you need to normally do is divide it. You can always divide multiple parts. The less division you will do lower computation. So if you can divide into 2, it is better than dividing into 3. So for assignment, it should be fine. I'm not going to cut your marks. But need to understand the basic that all the reason I gave you CSE is how the encryption works. Okay, any message you send would be larger than n. So you need to divide the message into multiple parts. And that is what I wanted to test out how many people could check it up. So you can divide into
Sir,
3, that will
can
still be
you,
fine. Yeah.
sir, can you explain the reason behind this value of n and its size, or like what
Look,
is the main?
look, we are always doing modulo n. Okay. So the original number happens to be more than n. We can never construct it because modulo n will give me value less than n. So any data that you need to encrypt and decrypt, its value has to be less than n. Because when you are reconstructing it, we're always doing a modulo. Modulo will always give you lesser value than n. And that is the reason you divide the message such a way that each message part, its numerical value should be less than n. Is that clear, Susan?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
I didn't say that in the assignment. I thought you'll figure it out. Any other question?
Sir,
Yeah.
sir, you told we need to divide into 3 parts or 2 parts. No, sir, what if there are many letters? Like since you gave only 3 letters CSE, what if there are many letters, sir?
So you divide accordingly. So normally in real life, your key size is 1024 bits or more. Okay. So normally you divide into letters of 64 characters, basically. So there the integer sizes are. So many letters you divide such a way that number of bits would be always less than that.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
That's why normally see a 64-byte block. If you look at these algorithm, always take a block of 64 bytes, 512 bits. Okay.
Sir, is there any other method other than splitting up the thing, sir?
You have to split. There is no way you can. Other is if you are doing only integrity check, then you don't have to. With integrity check, you are doing only hashing. So there are other protocols. Can you do convert byte by byte stream? We call it streaming encryption. What we studied is your DES, AES. These are all called block streaming. Sorry, not block streaming, block cipher. But that will become part of your security course. So I can go on, but it's not part of the course. I don't want to get into that more.
Okay, sir.
Okay. So you have to look at the key size, and so basically, if you're doing only hashing, then different case. But you want to encryption, decryption, you're always doing a modulo. You have to divide as much as you can, one maximum. But value cannot be more than that. They're all integer arithmetic. Understand that.
Yes, sir.
So I hope that assignment made it very clear what it means.
Yes, sir.
Any other question? I mean, security was semi-standard stuff. What are the kind of attacks, threat type, DNS hacking, IP routing hacking, DOS attacks, then you do authentication, then you get into SHA algorithm, secure hash. And bad part is you have to mug up for the main exam. I don't like it, but don't have a choice for VTU exam. Take file register, muffle it, shuffle it. There's no point mugging or producing, but that's the way the exam works. To prove, we have to look at why does the Diffie-Hellman key algorithm work. You have to basically say that alpha raised to power xa raised to xb same as alpha raised to xb power xa. That's why the keys are same. Shared key exchange. So primarily 4 things you need to end up doing: DS algorithm, SH algorithm, RSA algorithm, Diffie-Hellman key exchange. And there is going to be one question among the 4, or maybe 2. Describe the steps of algorithm, how do they work, and there may be numerical small value. Let's say given the prime numbers 5 and 7, encrypt and decrypt. So you may be given, take a prime number 5, take a prime number 7, use a key value as 4 and encrypt and then decrypt. Something of that kind. Okay. Any other question, guys? If not, thank you. If you still have a question, you can always ask me.
Sir,
Yeah. Saurabh, yeah, go ahead.
sir, about the assignment, sir. Sir, should all the teammates submit the assignment or anyone can submit, sir?
Only one should submit. But mention that who the 3 team members are. Okay.
Okay, sir. And
Yeah.
and sir, about README, sir. Should we send it in the
There's
separate
only
file,
one
the serial
file.
files?
There's no programming. There's only one file. I want to put 2 files. That's okay. Single file, upload, put everything there. What did you do? What did you learn? Is only a PDF file. Okay.
Okay, sir.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
Anything else? Anybody? If no, thank you. Wish you all the best. Enjoy. And wish you
Thank you,
New Year
sir.
to do a lot of good things to you. Do well.
Thank you, sir.
Okay. If you still have question, send me, mail me. I can answer and do something. That's okay. No issues.
Thank you, sir.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.